Welcome to a possibly illness-related episode of Cinematic Anarchy. I'm going to try not to cough throughout this entire episode. Hello, we are back for another episode with our friends from the Strange and Beautiful Book Club podcast, Rachel and Matt.
Hello.
Hello.
And today we're going to deviate from the norm. We're not going to talk about films per se. What we're going to do is sort of, at the end of Spooky Month here, we're going to take the film Scream and we're going to reimagine it and recast it as a 1980s B-movie horror film, using only actors that at one point starred in 1980s B-movies. Horror, whichever.
Let's do it.
And I'm working from the bottom up from that list that I gave you. I wanted to start with what would normally be the most insignificant character in the film, Principal Arthur Himbry. Surprisingly, Henry Winkler for this film went uncredited. He was not credited at the end of the film at all. And if you go into the IMDb, it literally lists him as uncredited.
He's like, they'll know who I am.
Right? Nobody has to guess.
I'm the Fonz.
Hey. So, what was your pick for the principal?
We played it a little fast and loose with the 80s.
Okay.
And because I kind of went for what I felt was the best fit, not necessarily, but maybe on that like 80s to 90s border. So we went with Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell, actually, yeah, I could see him as the principal.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that. And why'd you pick him?
Well, one, Matt only knows him from Fantasy Island, which I love on like a deep, visceral level. I'm like, he's in other stuff, and he's like, oh, the Fantasy Island guy. Oh, that guy. Yeah, he always knows him from that. And just the borderline, like, serious / possibly comedic delivery that he can give, I think would work really well.
Oh, I mean, like everything from he's been in Caligula. He was in Clockwork Orange. He was in Tank Girl as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So he's got a wide range of weird.
He was in Lex.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like the first or second season.
Season 1, episode 4. Yeah.
That was when they were still doing almost movie-length episodes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we use the word episode loosely. It's sort of like movie 1 through 4.
Movies. Yeah.
I picked somebody more comedic, I should say. Tim Thomerson, who is better known for some of his roles for Full Moon Entertainment. He was the lead actor in Trancers. He was Doll Man. He's done a lot of both B-movie and some popular films at the same time, which I don't have off the top of my head, but he always seemed to be in just utterly ridiculous roles. So literally, Doll Man was a hunter, an alien hunter from outer space, and they were basically humanoid aliens, so to speak, but when he came to our planet, he realized like he was 1/10 our size.
They're like toy soldiers.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was my pick.
I like it.
I kind of like Malcolm McDowell better, if I'm honest. I really do.
Always choose Malcolm McDowell if there is an option.
If you have a choice between Malcolm McDowell and a lot of people, choose Malcolm McDowell.
Choose Malcolm, yeah.
Malcolm's good. All right, moving on to our next character, also still fairly insignificant in the franchise, but leads to a lot of jokes later on. W. Earl Brown as Kenny the cameraman. Who did you have?
We went with Robert Zadar.
Oh, of Maniac Cop.
Yes, with the big jaw.
It's a distinctive look.
And
he doesn't need to do a lot of like acting deliveries.
No, there's not a lot of acting delivery
he just
there
exists
at all.
as a odd looking person. He gets cast and stuff. So it felt like the ideal place for him in this.
I went odd, but in a different direction.
Mm.
Andrew Dice Clay. Oh, you got to know Andrew Dice Clay. Please tell me. Yes, no. Oh,
I might know his
I'm going to feel
face.
really bad now. Ford Fairlane. He was in an old 80s film called Casual Sex. He just known as the Dice Man. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I know his face. I
he's
just
been a
didn't know his name.
foul-mouthed comedian forever. I wouldn't say that his stand-up routine was the best.
Okay, I recognize the face.
Yeah.
Like his whole thing was the dirty version of nursery rhymes for the longest time. Near to pornographic version of nursery rhymes. So that was his thing.
So
Back
he
to me.
Interesting strategy.
He takes cameraman in a whole different direction. They're like, should this man be allowed to film the public?
My only real memory of Andrew Dice Clay as a comedian outside of that was just one particular joke that he had about his girlfriend breaking up with him because she came home and caught him skipping her turtle across the pool.
No.
Yeah.
He is a bad comedian. You are correct.
Yeah. It's just, that is like the only joke that sticks in my mind. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, what? I'd also break up with you.
It's like, no. I'm half
Animal
on half.
abuse that's a good line. If you got to have one, abuse is a good line.
It's 1980s too, so
Yeah.
some jokes were not necessarily off limits back then.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to be PC, and you can't talk about skipping turtles across the pool now. I don't think.
Right. Even in the
No.
90s.
You could talk about it. It wouldn't be funny, but you
Right.
could talk about it.
I mean, Daniel Tosh might be able to figure out a way to make it funny. But his entire set is just sort of vulgarity from back to front anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind
it's part
him.
of your shtick.
It's part of his shtick. Moving on to our next character, Liev Schreiber playing Cotton Weary.
So my criteria for this one was an actor who was instantly recognizable in a way that made you go, is that? Because we were watching it, because spoiler alert, I had never seen Scream. So I had to go and watch Scream to be able to cast this.
Okay.
So Matt goes, is that Liev Schreiber? And I was like, yeah. And then you never see him again. So it has to be a character that you can see for 2 seconds and be like, is that? So I went Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. Okay, I went into the martial arts territory too, and I was tossed up between two actors. I was tossed up between Michael Dudikoff, is who I picked. Known for like the American Ninja. He was in all sorts of like B-level action films in the 80s. Chuck Norris, like he's the poor man's Chuck Norris.
Okay.
And then the other one that I had in the top of my head, and I guess is the only backup I might have had, and I believe his name's Mark Dacascos. The guy who basically ran Iron Chef for a while. He was like the voice of Iron Chef.
He played in The Crow. Isn't that the guy who played in the TV show of The Crow?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, he was the Crow in the TV show.
But he was also like in relatively obscure martial arts like action films in the 80s. So that's what my thought process was. Again, I liked the idea of having somebody that's recognizable.
Yeah.
And both of those guys, if you watch a lot of B-rated action films from the 80s, would be immediately recognizable to you. However, your pick is recognizable to everybody. So who the hell doesn't know Chuck Norris?
Exactly. And you'd be like, oh my God, is that Chuck Norris? Is he going to come back? No, he's not. No, that's it.
What? Why is Chuck Norris in this cheesy B film? Jeez.
We were like, he came and Liev Schreiber came for a sandwich. Like that's what he worked for. Because
it's like the Brad Pitt scene in Deadpool.
Yeah. For a cup of coffee.
Yeah. A cup of coffee, like 5 frames of video.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair pay.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next character, Rose McGowan playing Tatum Riley, Dewey Riley's sister.
This is where we wandered into the 90s a little because I went with Pamela Anderson.
Oh, you wondered. Well, Pam was still in the 80s.
Yeah. I'm thinking more like
I don't think she was as recognizable in the 80s, though, if I'm
Probably
not mistaken.
not. Yeah.
I believe she still had, like, dark hair, not blonde.
Well, that's why she wasn't recognizable yet.
Right.
But I was thinking more like barbed wire Pamela Anderson, because we could do like she's more of the vapant sex pot character.
Yeah.
I went with a B-movie horror icon, Felissa Rose from the Sleepaway Camp films. In the later portion of the 80s, she would have been old enough to take on that role. So,
which is crucial.
Yeah. A little earlier on, she kind of looked a little too young to be part of it. I mean, technically, I guess she could have played Dewey's sister, but like in a younger grade.
Mhm.
But then you're murdering kids.
Yeah.
So,
Less entertaining.
Yeah.
less entertaining. Next up, Jamie Kennedy as Randy Meeks.
This is one where we were divided.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went with Emilio Estevez, and Matt chose
Matthew Broderick.
yeah.
I would have to say Matthew Broderick would have more of the snark
Yeah.
that Randy walked around with. He kind
Snarky,
of had that
nerdy guy.
snarky.
He could deliver the rules speech
Yes,
where he's like, "No,
absolutely.
there are rules."
I went with another 80s icon, Alex Winter. From, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, but he was in several like B-level films in the 80s.
Isn't
So
he
I
also
just-
in Bill and Ted?
Well, that's what I said. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He was in The
Lost
Boys.
Lost Boys. Lost
Yeah.
Boys. That's the one I was going to say. I glitched for a minute. Wasn't he in the movie you just said? Yes, he was. Yes. No. Thank you.
Did I stutter?
I think I don't know. He doesn't. I really have only seen him in Bill and Ted where he has like a significant speaking role. Because in Lost Boys he doesn't talk at all. So
No, not at all.
no.
But if he had like several like sketch comedy things that he did as well, like things when he was just trying to present himself as an actor, and he is just all sorts of weird. If you get to go look up like old Alex Winter sketches,
all sorts of
wow.
weird. It'd have to be weird because Randy was that. You could have literally removed his character as like a recurring character. So he had to be like this memorable, weird.
Randy was the exposition dump in most of the Scream movies, for the first two anyway. And he even had managed to record things that would be brought up in later movies. So I think it's Scream 3 or Scream 4, where Randy's sister comes out of the woodwork, played by Heather Matarazzo, I believe her name is. I might be mispronouncing the last name. From Welcome to the Dollhouse and the Princess Diaries.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Or horror fans would probably know her a little better from the movie Hostel. But she brings out a videotape of him basically laying down the rules for like a trilogy or something to that nature. And I'm like, if you're seeing this, I'm already dead. And I'm like, he was planning to die before the third movie came out because he's talking about the trilogy.
Yeah.
He's like, I knew I was going to be dead.
That's just the rules.
Like otherwise,
I really liked that as the Randy character because he gave us a lot of exposition to reference all of the, well, I guess self-referential or introspective nature of this movie as a kind of homage or commentary on the entire genre.
I just watched the fifth one this evening. And the best part of that film, for me personally, was the fact that David Arquette took over the role of laying out the rules.
Nice.
He is just, at this point, by film number 5, and spoiler alert, by film number 5, he is some sad sack living by himself in a trailer.
Oh.
He's no longer Deputy Dewey or Sheriff Dewey. He is literally just living in a trailer watching Gale Weathers on the TV. And the new characters for the film pop in, and he lays out the rules. These are the rules you got to follow. And I'm like, so now you're the Randy here. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, he's been through so much.
Yeah.
He's somehow lived through 4 scary
First-hand
movies already.
expert experience.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my next person on the list, and I'm realizing that I picked somebody so obscure that I should probably just send a picture to you guys. So the next character in the
I love
film
that
is
you know that
Matthew
about yourself.
Lillard. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
know that. You told me that I was going to pick some people that you would have gone like, oh, I don't know if I can keep up with that. Okay, maybe. So the next character in the film is Matthew Lillard playing Stu Macher, and I'm going to let you guys tell me about your pick while I go over here and send you the picture of mine.
I should really present my Stu Macher and my Billy Loomis together because
Okay.
I chose them specifically to be together
As a dynamic duo.
as a duo
Okay.
because they are the duo. They're the only like believable couple in the entire movie. And I went with Christopher Lambert for Billy Loomis and Clancy Brown for Stu Macher.
Clancy Brown. Oh, well, I guess Clancy Brown would have been fairly young, sort of still a hulking guy back then. Like he was playing
Right.
in the Highlander
Right, with
as the
Christopher
Kurgan
Lambert.
back then.
Yeah.
So he was still a big guy, but yeah, I could see that. And
Yeah.
who's your?
Christopher Lambert. So it's the Highlander couple. It's Connor McLeod and the Kurgan.
So these are both two guys playing the teenage love interests of the
Yes.
two lead girls.
Yes.
That'd be a very interesting pairing. Mine seems a little. Mine seems a little disjointed in comparison.
I think it makes sense. They make sense in the Highlander movie. They would
Yeah.
make sense in this movie.
They make sense as rivals.
Especially if he's modern, like metal goth Kurgan.
You know what I'm
with
realizing?
all the piercings and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
realizing right now that I've got to add Matt to like a separate group when we're talking about the podcast. Like I've just been communicating with you.
That's fine. He gets
My phone's right in front of me, so I can't really. My video on here is on my phone.
Okay. So you're the one that's getting the picture, and then I can't really send it to Matt because he can't see it.
Yeah. I have relayed the information. But I thought Christopher Lambert could do the weird creepy. Because he can do weird creepy. Because Billy Loomis is creepy from the very beginning. And then I thought Clancy Brown is basically already Stu in Highlander.
Okay.
He's just immortal Stu. So I thought,
So the guy that I picked for Stu is sort of an obscure one. He's been in a few fairly popular movies, things like Gas Food Lodging, The Blob, Cutting Class. Cutting Class, which is the first film that Brad Pitt got a lead role in. This gentleman's name is Donovan Lecht. I think it's funny when you go look him up on Google because it does not list him as an actor, it lists him as a model. It's like you're acting, you've been in a lot of movies, but your acting was not strong enough for us to call you actor.
Yeah, sorry.
You are model.
Just being in a movie does not qualify you to be an actor.
It's like, congratulations that we even put the movies underneath your name.
Yeah,
Be happy. On the other hand, the gentleman that I picked for Billy Loomis is very popular right now. He is considered an A-list star, but in the 80s, he starred in such shitty movies as Return to Horror High and Return of the Killer Tomatoes. George Clooney.
George Clooney is in Killer Tomatoes.
He was in the sequel, Return of the Killer Tomatoes, which also starred the guy that played the original Gomez Addams in the Addams Family.
Wow.
As like a mad scientist. John something or other. Just not honing in on his name right now.
I guess it's been a while since I've watched the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes series.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, great. Return of the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, thumbs down.
Hey,
it is
if it's better than Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh, it's much better than Garbage Pail Kids.
That is my bar. It's my bar for shitty movies for the rest of eternity.
I was looking for bad 80s B movies to like bring up, and when I'm reading everything, it literally has at the bottom of the list Garbage Pail Kids, which is widely panned as possibly one of the worst films ever made.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. No, did I write that list? I feel like
It's
I could have written
possible.
that list.
I love really shitty movies, and I will tell you that I love watching Return of the Killer Tomatoes once I've had a few drinks.
Mm,
So
okay, so it doesn't fall below that. There's that line of watchability where
get
you
me
can
drunk.
be
Give me,
terrible but entertaining, and then once you fall below that, you're Garbage Pail Kids.
it's one of those films that I would invite people over to watch, literally because it is so bad. We could almost do like the MST3K thing and just
Yeah.
make fun
Nice.
of everything bit by bit.
Okay, yeah.
You
So
know,
those are the good kind of bad movies.
drink when they do this dumbassery, or you can, with Return of the Killer Tomatoes, drink every time they turn a tomato into a woman.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
that's actually a plot line. Don't ask. They had 4 Return of the Killer Tomatoes movies, like, and I think the other 2 are so obscure you can't even find them on like VHS anymore. They're just way out there. Like one of them's Return of the Killer, or the Killer Tomatoes Take France, or something
Oh,
like that. And I can't remember
interesting.
what the 4th incarnation of it was. I haven't watched either one of those. Not for lack of trying. I have tried to find some site that might just have it for free, but no,
No.
nothing.
Hmm.
So, yeah, George Clooney. That was my pick.
I think those are solid picks.
Well, and mind you, I did actually have a backup for Donovan Lecht too, because there was another guy that had, I can't remember the name of the movie for the life of me now, but Vincent D'Onofrio
Oh yeah.
actually got his start in Troma films. So there's just some obscure Troma film that he's in with his head shaved, and he's a young guy back then, but he could have done that with no problem, because
Oh,
back
yeah.
then he was he had some
Egger
kind of. So moving on to our next character, probably the most significant role outside of Sydney in this film, and I think probably like the thing that brought Drew Barrymore's career back like front and center. Casey Becker, the opening credits for the film.
Okay, so my qualification for this one was had to be able to get top billing and
Right.
be recognizable, and then you never expect them to die.
Right. So famous that you never expect them to die in the first scene.
Right. So I went Molly Ringwald.
Oh, okay. Molly Ring. I actually could see that.
Yeah.
What
Because
now?
you could put her starring Molly Ringwald. People would go to see her, never expecting her to die in the first 15 minutes.
First thought in people's heads would be like, how did they get Molly Ringwald to star in an 80s B movie? How did that happen? Because she was like the John Hughes darling back then.
That's why it's surprising. That's why it's a surprising pick.
So that would put butts in seats, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mine
that
was
my contribution to the list.
mine was a little bit more B movie standard, and it's the reason why I geeked out a little earlier. Kelly Mulroney, who is known for such films as Zero Boys. That was a good film if you want to watch schlock. She was known for Chopping Mall, Night of the Comets. She had a lot of B-movie films, but one of the reasons why I picked her for this role is because she was sort of ahead of her time in her roles. If you watch any movie with her in it, she is one of those female lead characters or supporting characters that decided, I don't need a guy to save me. I can save myself, which was virtually unheard of in the B-movie horror world of the 80s. So in Chopping Mall, in Zero Boys, in Night of the Comet, she played characters that just didn't need to be saved by the men in the movie. She basically took care of herself.
Sounds like Rachel's kind of female main character.
Yeah. Sounds like she'd be good for Sydney.
Watch those films, minus Zero Boys. The only reason to watch Zero Boys is because that was Hans Zimmer's first movie.
Oh.
So that is the first movie that he laid down a score for.
Okay. That might be worth it for that then.
Yeah.
only reason I have that Blu-ray on my shelf to this day is because of the fact that that is of historical significance.
Yeah.
Because Hans Zimmer is massively popular as a composer now.
Right. And he started with
Zero Boys. So sit back, watch that, laugh. And several of the sites within Zero Boys were actually lots that they borrowed from the early Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake movies.
Oh.
Or the early movies, but the
Yeah.
Camp Crystal Lake locations.
I translated.
Pardon me. Well, hey, it's not bad. 20 minutes in, that's the first time I tripped on my tongue or an
Woohoo.
idea. So that's a record for me.
We're going smooth here.
Right. Moving up the list to the David Arquette Dewey Riley role.
Well,
Who do you have for Deputy Dewey?
This is the one I fought to put this guy in literally every role when we were discussing it. And Matt was like,
Originally, like,
please.
this guy could play any role in the movie.
Any role. Okay, I'm listening.
And I'm going to go with Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. As Deputy Dewey?
Yes. Sort of like Malcolm McDowell.
Wow.
If you can get him in your movie, get him in your movie. Like,
I wonder what Danny Trejo was doing back in the 80s,
and
because
it
I
doesn't
don't
even-
remember.
it doesn't matter how old he is. It doesn't matter how he looked. You just put him in there and he's Dewey. Like, just leave it.
Okay, so the guy I
Offer-
picked is the
Offer
polar
no
opposite.
explanation.
The
Wait, Matt-
polar
Matt-
opposite of Danny Trejo.
My choice.
Oh,
Yeah,
you have a
Matt-
choice too.
Yes, yeah. He did not believe. He didn't trust me with the Danny Trejo choice.
Oh,
for anything.
okay.
I can appreciate the shock value of Danny Trejo in any role.
As Pamela Anderson's brother.
But
What?
but if we're taking
Well,
this
'cause
a little
she's
more
Tatum.
seriously,
Oh, okay.
who could you put in there that was so 80s? And I said David Hasselhoff.
Or
David
Bruce Campbell. You went either
Or
way.
Bruce Campbell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce
I've-
Campbell was my initial choice. And then I thought, no, like David Hasselhoff would be like a slightly bigger name.
I could actually see that just based off of his role in Baywatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And David Hasselhoff and Pam Anderson in the same movie as brother and sister. That would be quite funny.
Mhm.
My pick actually went along with the Felissa Rose thing because they have a similar, I don't want to say similar look, because that smile on Felissa Rose would creep the hell out of me. But for comedic value, and he is widely known now and was just starting he was in relative obscurity back in the 80s, like late 80s. Bruce Campbell.
Okay. So you and
Yeah.
Matt agreed. Matt's first choice was Bruce Campbell, and then he backed off and went David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, like 80s B movie, like action horror.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell's got to be there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about the Dewey attitude and who could have
Yes.
pulled that off. And I think that Bruce Campbell could have pulled that off with no problem.
Yeah.
You know, he could definitely walk into a room and be both the action hero and completely comedic fodder at the same time.
Absolutely.
So moving on to our top two build female roles. Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers.
This is another one. We weren't necessarily split, but we had two choices. And we went with either Sean Young or Janine Garofalo.
You know, I could see Sean Young.
Yeah.
Janine Garofalo
I
has
think she could do the
well,
cynical.
she
Yeah,
has the
the
cynical edge to
snarky-
her.
Yeah.
And she was definitely that kind of person way back when.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's gone a little bit more goofy and a little less cynical lately, but that has nothing
Yes.
to do with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just thinking that time period, what was she doing? And
Right.
yeah, it was like the super cynical, snarky, disagreeable person.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that. Mine, again, a little bit more obscure, so I'm going to go ahead and send another little link just because, just in case you don't know who this is.
I love that you have to provide references.
I want to make sure, because I was just thinking about the fact that I can't remember a ton of movies that she was in. I've seen a few. She was in Last Starfighter, Night of the Comet.
Yes, Last Starfighter. That's what I know.
She was in Weekend at Bernie's. Mary Catherine Stewart.
She's the girlfriend in Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
I know her mostly from Last Starfighter and Night of the Comet. But I thought she kind of had the right attitude for the Gale Weathers role, kind of the right look. And in the 80s, she had the right look. So if you're doing it as an 80s movie, I'm not...
Yeah, she had the hair.
I don't think that anybody else popped into my mind for that particular role. So yeah, that was my pick. And now we're moving up to the last, but certainly not least, Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott role, our final girl from the Scream franchise for many, many movies now.
All right, we were split on this one. Where we each had a choice, and then I had a choice and an alternate.
Okay.
So, Matt, you want to say yours first this time?
I don't remember. we did this in the car earlier.
Okay. Your choice is literally forgettable?
Somewhat?
Somewhat?
Oh, Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Yeah.
Okay. She might have been a little young in the 80s.
Yeah, that's why we wandered a little into the 90s for a couple choices.
That's fine.
Yeah. I went Jamie Gertz.
Okay, I could see Jamie Gertz. That's Lost Boys, right?
Yeah. With a potential alternate of Bridget Nielsen, but only if she plays her exactly the same way she plays Red Sonja.
Okay. I went with
just completely deadpan. Beat everyone up. Red Sonja.
I went with a very recognizable face, somebody that's even in things to this day. She's never been like front and center. She's been in a couple of lead roles, but it's always been in like cheesy B movies. She's somebody that you look at as like, I know that girl. Where do I know her from? Sherilyn Fenn. She was known for stuff like the original Puppet Master movie. She was in Friends as the girl with the one leg that Joey threw her leg into the fireplace accidentally. She was also known for 2 dueling roles on the Gilmore Girls. She was the mother of Luke's daughter, and then earlier on she played Jesse's father's girlfriend. These are the only roles that I know her from. So it's like I know. Oh wait, I'm wrong. She was also known for being in one of the most uncomfortable movies I have ever watched in my entire life. Julian Sands, Sherilyn Fenn in Boxing Helena. Boxing Helena is a deeply disturbing movie about a man who is obsessed. He's like a surgeon. He's obsessed with this woman, and she does not want to be with him. And I think it just progresses into her amputating her arms and her legs and keeping her in a box.
Why was Julian Sands so all over the map? Like, you either watched him and you were like, that was like the best movie I ever watched, or you watched him and you were like, what the fuck did I just watch? And there was no in between.
I feel like Julian Sands was the Nick Cage of the 80s and 90s. It was just like, either you see something really good with him in it, or you see something you're like, why was he in this? Why did he do this? Oh my God, stop.
Yeah. But no in between. Like, there was no, oh, that was okay. There was only, oh no, I wish I could erase that from my brain, or, oh, that was a good movie.
I would recommend watching that film just for how uncomfortable it is, and you'll understand why. I don't think it's ever been released on Blu-ray. I don't think it had much of a DVD run outside of somebody selling bootlegs on eBay. It's a difficult movie to find, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Oh my God, she was in Prey. I'm sorry. I want to do a one season wonders, like all of these obscure, forgotten sci-fi, fantasy, horror television shows, and Prey was one of them.
Right, you could sit down and talk for 2 to 3 hours about like just one little season.
I know. Well, or do
Or
an
you can break it
episode by
down episode by
episode.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Prey was the one where there was an alternate human species, and they literally ate us. And this lady discovers them. It got real weird real fast, which is why I would love to cover it. But anyway,
there's a lot of really good ones out in the 80s and 90s. Just one season wonders of just films that like sound absolutely ridiculous. I'll send some of them to you. I've watched some of this stuff. I used to just search for like one hit wonders, like TV shows that like had one season, dropped off, and that nobody had ever heard of.
right.
Or some that didn't even make it past 3 episodes.
And they were just like, stop, turn it off quick.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have the Clerks animated special, like the TV show that they had for a very short period of time on my shelf over here. They did a total of maybe 4 or 5 episodes.
She was in Twin Peaks.
Yep.
Okay.
She was in a lot of fairly popular stuff, but she's that girl that you see and you're like, I know who that is. I've seen her in something else.
Yeah, that girl.
But she was never upfront enough for most people to even remember her name. So I've just seen her too much not to remember that name. Mostly because I love really crappy B movies, especially the stuff from like Full Moon Entertainment, Troma, and she was all over Full Moon Entertainment.
And it kind of recycles. It's the same about like we watch so much low budget Canadian TV. I can go, oh, that guy's in that episode and he's in that. And we tried watching Cube, and I think I knew what each character had been in the first 5 minutes. I was like, oh, that guy was in an episode of Forever Night, and that guy was in an episode of Lex, and that guy was in an episode of, because it's like a rotating door. You know, it's just it's the same like Rolodex of actors.
Yeah.
And so after a while, you get to recognize them.
Especially in like the sci-fi and action television series. It's a lot of people just guest star throughout everything. Bruce Campbell was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like all over the place. Like most memorably, I think in both Hercules and Xena. And I think he had his own spin-off for a very short period of time.
Maybe. I know he was in both of them, and he was like a recurring character.
He had like a Robin Hood spin-off of some sort from that show. And I'm like, first of all, what does Robin Hood have to do with any of this?
Yeah, he was just showed up and he was like, can I be that guy? And they were like, yeah, sure, Bruce, go ahead. It's fine.
I'm not sure he fits into this world, but whatever.
Well, whatever. It's fine. It's Greek Robin Hood. Yeah, that's fucking fine. It's fine.
And him and Ted Raimi were like really good friends.
Right. And he's in it, or it's a Raimi thing. Yeah. Xena was anyway.
I believe so. Yeah, Ted was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's Jaxer.
Oh, now that I think about it, Ted Raimi as Randy Meeks.
That
might actually work.
Yeah.
Or like, what is his name? Like young Jeffrey Combs.
Okay. I can see that.
Just now that other names are starting to roll through my head, we're talking about like, oh, well, this person was fairly obscure, so was this person.
I want to see Scream as a B movie because it was fine. I don't know, maybe if I'd watched it in 1996 instead of waiting this long.
Yeah. I would love to, just what we're doing right here, I would love to see them take Scream, but like remove it several decades.
Yeah.
Like turn it into like an 80s movie or 50s movie. You know, take it several decades into the past, make it something more of a period. Well, I don't want to say period piece because what are you going to do? Victorian era Scream?
Well, how are they going to do the phone call? Like it's the 50s, and then the guy he's like, I'm on your front porch, and she just looks down and there's a phone line going through her house, like underneath the front door and onto the porch. She's like, oh my God, he is on the front porch. That's how he's calling me right now.
Hey, Sydney, do you like any scary talkies? You know, what's your favorite silent movie?
Right.
What? It doesn't quite work.
What's your favorite tragic play?
Just what's your favorite Shakespeare? No. Okay, so we can't go quite that far back,
No,
but
but
maybe
you
the
could do the 80s because you could do the 80s because you could have it. It could be pretty stylish.
you could do like 70s too if you think about it.
Yeah, it'd just be a much longer movie, a lot more long shots.
You know what I would actually enjoy? Take Scream, turn it into a 70s grindhouse flick.
Mm.
Like, just go for like shoddy, all over the place camera quality, just
Yeah,
crappy audio, but put all your money into the actors. So it's like high quality performances shot on absolute shit sound and film.
but with big name actors.
Yeah.
Big
I can
name
get behind
actors.
this. So pretty much every 70s movie, that's what we're, because that sounds like.
Pretty.
We watched
pretty
so
much.
many shitty 70s movies because we did
Oh.
that 1979 vampire series.
No matter
And we
how
watched-
shitty you think those movies are, there's always something worse.
I don't
Trust
know.
me.
We watched Dracula Blows His Cool. And it's not as bad. No, it wasn't a bad movie, but it was a German sex comedy.
Okay.
And the amount of nudity in that movie was astounding.
Was Cool the name of another character in the movie?
No.
No.
I was thinking you blows his cool.
no.
you
It's,
know?
it's a translation of like he lost his temper or whatever.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I guess that.
Because his castle has been turned into a sex club. And there's a whole gag where this lady has a 5-foot tall penis and she's like trying to hide it and she sticks it under her skirt and she's like sitting on it.
It's like 3 feet tall. It's not.
That's
6 feet
that's
tall.
the vibe I want for Scream.
But-
For the Scream movie. It's just horror and dick jokes. And just
Yeah.
nudity everywhere.
and a lot of gore. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a slasher film, so you gotta ramp up the blood, but it's gotta be 1970s, 1980s level red paint blood.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it
the
can't be
bad, where
believable.
it doesn't look like blood at all.
Mhm.
Doesn't look like blood. When somebody's gutted, they just kind of lay the entrails on top of them, you know, haphazardly.
Right.
You know, and you got to do like really bad like special effects so you can deliberately see the cut and like the dummy that they use to, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just like a bad wax head of whoever that was.
Oh, we watched an interesting thing about, you know, the like blood spurt, the like blood just spraying out or whatever.
Yeah.
Right
The first-
from the Japanese movies.
Yeah, the first time that happens is in like Japanese samurai movies. And it was a mistake. The first time it happened, they had turned the pressure on the squib up too high.
Right, because it
And it,
had
like,
not been working, so they like ramped up the pressure way high just to make sure that it would not fail to spray. And so it was supposed to just like squirt out blood like an arterial wound would. But when they did it, the cap on the end, like the sprayer head, burst off and it would just went like a hose. And the guy was like, shit, I lost my job. But they loved it.
They're like, that's it? That's
He's
fucking it?
thinking,
And they
he's-
kept it. And it's become like a trope. And I just love that. So like one prop guy being like, oh, you're going to burst this time. What? Fuck it, you're not going to do it. And became, you know, horror.
he's just sitting around thinking he's going to lose his job, and everybody else is dead silent for all of 5 seconds, just trying to process. And that's it.
That's
Keep the take.
But to the actors' credit, all of the actors maintained their composure
Yeah.
and finished
Well,
acting
it's like-
out the scene
You can-
while
yeah.
this blood was spraying out. I think it was an Akira Kurosawa movie.
It wasn't it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the best way to approach it, though. Just be dead serious and keep going, even though you want to just drop out laughing. Like,
Right.
why am I being just doused right now?
Yeah.
I keep likening things back to Friends. I'm just picturing the Gary Oldman scene with him and Joey, and Gary Oldman just spitting all over him. It's like, why the hell are you spitting all over me? And he's like, I'm not spitting, I'm enunciating. Because you want to enunciate in film. The more spit that ends up on your face, the better the scene, the better the sound. And so they just go back and forth, each take just completely soaking each other with spit.
Gross.
It's like, okay, yeah, Gary Oldman, though. That's another guy right there who just does everything.
Yeah.
From dead serious to absolutely freaking weird.
Right, but
Thank
he
you,
crushes it
Fifth
no matter
Element.
what. Like everything he's in, you're like, all right, Gary.
I
still
was on
love
the
you.
borderline with Fifth Element. I really was.
No.
Oh,
John
he
Baptiste
rocks,
Emmanuel Zorg. No. No, I love the Fifth Element. I love it. Those costumes are by John Paul Gaultier.
I didn't think there was enough.
Enough what?
I didn't. I didn't think there was enough to that movie. I felt like it was missing
Oh
some
no,
things.
it's a vibe. It's a music video. There's nothing going on in that movie. It's fine. You're just there for the experience of like
the protagonist and the antagonist aren't even aware of each other's existence.
They never meet. They never even know each other exists in the
But
whole
I guess,
movie.
yeah, as an actor in the plot, like obviously Bruce Willis's character knows that Zorg exists because Zorg owns his taxi company that he works for.
Isn't Zorg also the name of like the main villain in Buzz Lightyear's universe?
Zurg.
Zurg.
The
Okay.
Zurg, yeah.
Okay,
no,
Zorg and Zurg. Where am I thinking Zorg then?
No, isn't Zurg from the
that's
from
StarCraft.
No, he's wow.
I swear it was Zorg.
Might be the bad guy in like Buzz Lightyear's arch enemy.
It's like I'm going to look it up, but I could have sworn it was Zorg. I'm sitting here trying to figure out. Yeah, well, no, it says Zorg, John Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg here. It does not mention that for. The only thing that comes up is Gary Oldman's face. It's not mentioning Zorg anywhere else. Zurg. I think it may be Zurg. I think you're right. Zurg. Yeah, it is Zurg. Zurg, not Zorg.
Okay.
So and it's Zerg in
StarCraft.
Yeah.
So I'm like, isn't that the same name? And then I proved myself wrong. So there we go. That works. Okay. Hey, at least I'm calling myself out for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
If I don't get a like ID card or pass to something and go multi-pass, it's a bad day. I haven't done my job. I'm like multi-pass.
The reason I'd also like to see this as an 80s remake is because of the size of the cell phones in the late 80s.
The giant, like,
yes.
They have to run out to the car. I got to go to the car to use my car phone.
Or you have the like satchel phone.
Yeah. The phone in the bag.
He's on the front porch with the satchel phone.
I mean, you could
cord.
Have somebody that gets killed because they get wrapped up in their own cord attached to the wall.
Ooh, you could use it as a bludgeoning weapon.
You could.
Like the phones
the
back then.
Battery on the phone.
Well, how does the like wireless camera that they plant work? Because they put that camera in
it would have to be corded.
No,
they would have to run a line.
No, in Scream. Remember, Gail Weathers goes into the party and she plants the camera.
Yes, Scream 4. Scream 4 is where she there was a whole thing where they were having the Stabathon, and she had to go up into the eaves of the barn and plant cameras.
Oh, well, they do it in Scream 1, too, because she puts it on top of the TV.
In the 1996 Scream, when she sneaks in to the party with Dewey, she backs up to the TV, and she slides a little remote camera.
Oh, I missed that. And it's not little either.
No, it's not little.
Super
and
small.
that's what they're watching in the van.
Right.
Because that's how they know that Ghostface is behind Randy.
It's like these things are not inconspicuous at all. How are people not seeing this?
And the trouble there is the battery. The battery technology didn't exist to have the battery in that small of a box to last like a couple hours.
One of my favorite Dewey Gale moments is one of the later films where they're interacting with each other, and he's like, okay, he goes, but you got to leave the camera crew behind. She goes, okay, and she tells her camera guy to stay behind. He goes, and the purse. And she looks down, she's like, oh yeah, shit, you bought me this purse, didn't you? Because there's a camera in the purse. So I can't remember if it was a movie or a television show or whatever where somebody bought like a spy cam, and it was this novelty, like massive novelty cherry pie. And you could see the camera literally sticking out of the side of it. So there's no way that you could, it's like a VHS camcorder inside of a massive ceramic pie. It's like, no, you're not going to hide that.
Wow.
No.
That's how I feel about the cameras in Scream movies.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need to keep the exact same plot, the exact same everything, but just downscale it to 80s technology. So she walks in and sets like a whole giant camera and starts running the cord out to the van.
She's
Like, I
in there
wanna
with a
see
bunch
that.
of like closed circuit televisions, just kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of those like the FBI vans, the box trucks just sitting outside.
They managed
the
to
giant
tag
cell
one of the
phones.
guys inside, and all you see is that the radar tracking thing. Just
Yeah.
oh, he's getting closer. He's on top of the van.
And then we have that moment where Ghostface is chasing Sydney in her house and he disappears, and then Billy Loomis comes in through her window and drops the cell phone. Except she has to drop the giant 80s cell phone, and it's like, and breaks her foot.
Maybe it's on a shoulder strap, and the shoulder strap breaks when he climbs in.
It falls down. See, you just keep everything exactly the same, but you just use 80s
same
technology.
premise.
Same premise, same actions, same. If he has a phone, he has a phone. If he
Just
has a camera,
replace
he
the
has a
props.
camera. But you have to replace the props with time period specific.
It's like 80s material. Yeah, that. I'm just picturing everybody in 80s clothes as well.
Yeah.
I think Randy was already kind of there.
Yeah, he was pretty like a polo shirt. So for some reason the like goth kid who's obsessed with horror movies wore like a polo shirt and jeans the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the least believable thing is these kids are all obsessed with horror movies and they're all like the popular kids.
Yeah, I think that Randy, under normal circumstances, would have worn something very, very different. Definitely
He
not
needed the
polo.
like the jorts, or like the big giant jean shorts
Mhm.
that were like the parachute pants.
Oh yeah.
But back then, Jamie Kennedy was way too much of a baby face. Like, he looked like a little kid in that movie.
He
Yeah.
did.
So I didn't even believe him as a teenager. Like, aren't you supposed to be back in elementary school? I mean, it works.
Because we're all older. Matt's 40 today. Today's his birthday.
Happy birthday
40.
to me.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
And I feel like the older I get, the younger teenagers look.
So I dragged you onto my podcast on your birthday, and we didn't even start with the happy birthday. We're like trailing the end. It's like, okay, finally, yeah. By the way, it's his birthday. Oh, yeah.
It's his birthday.
I would have given that a little bit more acknowledgement at the beginning. Happy birthday. Put yourself in one of the roles. There you go.
Just for you.
Kick out George Clooney.
Not Billy Loomis, please.
No, not Billy.
No, I'd probably be either Randy or who else?
I'd be perfectly fine being the principal. I don't need credit. Just kill me. Let me have an epic Paul Rubens death scene.
Yeah.
Like from Buffy.
It's my favorite. That's the best. The only reason to watch that movie at all is Paul Rubens' like improvised death scene, and then Rutger Hauer trying to be a serious bad guy vampire.
Trying to maintain composure through the whole thing.
I would have to say watching David Arquette in that movie too was pretty priceless.
Oh yeah, well he becomes a vampire like immediately. And he's like, "Let me in, man." He's like, "Dude, you're floating." Because
You're floating. Back off. Come on, let me in. I'm hungry.
Oh, that's a good movie too.
So who do you want?
The cameraman.
Yeah.
Kenny the cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
Get offed in the first movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Be the reason why every other cameraman that Gail gets is just absolutely apprehensive. Like, no, I see what happens to your cameraman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At one point, she's just going to set up her own camera. Just, we can edit this afterwards. It's not going to be live. I have to set up for myself. So we'll use a drone.
Yeah.
Just a drone camera, That way, whoever it is can be far, far the fuck away. It's like, no one wants to be around you, but we'll maintain this drone from a safe distance.
Right, over cellular network.
Yeah. They kept calling it the cellular. We cloned his cellular. I was like, hey. Nobody calls it that.
No. Well, not anymore.
Not
Maybe
anymore.
back then.
Yeah.
Cellular phone. I don't know. I call it my cell phone.
Yeah, but you don't say cellular. This is my
No.
cellular. Yeah.
It's too close to cellulite.
Portable. My portable phone.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just call it my phone. I have forgotten what it feels like to have a landline telephone. Completely.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
it's been years.
I have not had a necessity for it, and people keep telling me you should have a landline phone. I go, the only reason to have a landline phone is for the pollsters to call you this time of year.
Yeah. Who told
That's
you to
it.
have a landline phone? Was it your cable company? Because nobody else has one.
And those aren't
They
even
have tried to
landline
sell
phones
me.
anymore.
Yeah.
They have tried to sell me, but no, my wife's parents tried to sell me on it.
Hmm.
Basically stating that in an
Okay,
emergency,
boomer.
having a cell line, a cell phone or a landline phone over a cell phone would be a good thing. And I'm thinking to myself, don't the landlines go out more often than cell phones?
What you need to do is get one of those handsets that plugs into your phone that looks like an old school telephone handset. Have you seen
Have
those?
it- like
Right?
They're like a
They ma-
Bluetooth headset, but they
Yeah.
look like a handset,
Okay.
like the telephone receiver.
Yeah, like the analog phone that
Yeah,
You
with the
set
two
down on
circles
the
on the
receiver.
end and the bar in the middle.
Ultimately, in an emergency, you want a sat phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't want a phone attached to your wall.
right. Because lines just break.
Though I have thought of the idea of getting an old rotary telephone just to have a landline and a weird phone in my apartment for no reason. It's never going to get used. I'm never going to call anybody on it. Does
Just tell
rotary even
people-
work anymore?
Just tell people if that rings, run.
If that rings, run, right? In an
Yeah,
emergency.
you have to get an analog to digital converter for those because they don't use dial tones. So
Right.
you have to get a thing that converts the rotary click 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 to dial tones, and like people have like retrofitted the rotary phones with some electronics in there, just so that they can do the very physical rotary dial part.
Mm.
It's because in an emergency, you want a phone that requires at least 2 to 5 minutes of your concentration to call one number.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
don't heaven forbid you get the one wrong and you have to like start over. Oh, that was
Or
always
you
the
don't
worst.
dial all the way. And
Yeah.
the worst part about the rotary phone was that there was like a little metal piece at the end that's used as the stopper.
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly hitting that stopper with your finger.
Yep.
And you always ended up with like a callus or a cut like right there,
Yeah.
especially if you use the phone a lot. So,
Yeah.
no. Not a fun. And also it's fun to videotape your kids trying to make a rotary phone call. Dial our telephone number with this.
Click, 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 click.
What the hell is this? Just dial our number. How the hell do you even do this?
One number at a time.
Well, is there anything else you think we should try to flesh out with this film? Or do you think
No,
that's
I think that about covered it. I think this movie is better the way we cast it.
I do like
Honestly.
the way you cast it.
The way we cast it in general. Like
I
I watch
don't-
all of these movies.
I don't think we went over it and came to a solid agreement of who should be in what role. We just had our own.
Yeah.
I would like to just you guys cast it as your film. I'll cast it as my film, and then we'll just put them back both out into the theaters and see which one flies.
Yeah, it'll be the battle
Mhm.
of the redone screen.
You know, it'd be even more fun hiring all these people right now at their current age.
Yes, to be teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're all to act like teenagers in this film. A few
Hello,
people.
fellow children. I would love that. I would love that so much. It'd be like Grease. If you watch Grease now, those people are all 30. Like none of those teenagers even look like teenagers. They are all like 35.
I mean, but they don't look like they're in their 50s, 60s. Some of these
No.
people are pushing their 60s right now.
Yeah.
There's a couple I think that are actually 70 in our list.
That's fine.
So we're all getting dye jobs. You're all going to get in like skinny jeans, you know.
We can de-age them. We'll just use the
Oh yeah.
what's the
Just
movie
use
that
AI.
they made with Tom Hanks and Oh my God. His co-star from Forrest Gump. Jenny.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about too. Sean Young?
No.
No. Isn't that not Sean
Forrest
Young?
Gump is why did her name just leave
No,
me?
Sheen. Oh, good Lord. Why am my name is not popping into my head?
See, it left me too. Robin Wright.
Why did I say Sean Young?
Maybe because you were thinking Sean and
We,
Robin. They're both
well,
the,
and
like,
we mentioned Sean Young earlier.
yeah. Robin Wright. It's Tom Hanks and Robin Wright in a new movie, and they did the de-aging, whatever, so that they could like be together in the movie as younger people.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I got burned by Tron 2 when they did the de-aging.
Yeah, with Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
That didn't look natural at all.
And
Well,
they
and I
literally
think
like they
worked in that case because it was the old like the digital copy of Jeff Bridges.
No,
That
it's
was
in
the
real
young version?
life. It's in real life.
What were
We do a
Right.
flashback and we put him in it
okay.
instead of just it's there's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But they did it too soon is what they did it
Mhm.
because the technology came out like the week before and they were like, can we use that? And they were like, I mean, it's held together by Band-Aid and a couple pieces of code. And they were like, cool, let's put it in a movie. And it, anyway, but I'd be interested to see how it's going to work for the one with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright because it's been like a decade or more since it came out.
Mhm.
But we could do that. If it works well for that one, then we can just use it for our Scream movies. Can make them all teenagers again.
I think some of them would be semi-believable teenagers, so some of them still have that energy.
We'll just film it with cell phones with like TikTok filters.
I'm not sure you're going to get that same energy out of Hasselhoff and Pam Anderson.
I don't know. Have you seen David Hasselhoff
is
in
pretty spry.
what's the movie?
Kung Fury.
He actually has been in a few things that he's got a lot of energy for his
Yeah.
age.
Mhm.
I can't give that to Pam Anderson though. I can't.
No.
No, she doesn't have that
Alas.
energy that she had back in the 90s.
Well, it's all the silicone.
Where weighs you down a little bit.
Yep.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys stopping in and discussing this remake of the Scream film. Is there anything that you'd like to tell our listeners about your podcasts? Plural.
No, just we have the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. We're working our way through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. So if that's a thing you're interested in, we're chatting about that. We're doing a couple of horror movies, and we just interviewed Nigel Bennett, which was really exciting. And his episode is coming out in like a week or so.
You know, the Stephen King Dark Tower series, the original trilogy, is what actually got me heavily into reading way back when.
Yeah.
So
It's
having
good.
picked up, they had these old, like, it wasn't the trade paperback. It was
Mass
it was a
market
paper-
paperback. The little
whatever
ones.
the large ones. Is that the trade paperback?
trade
Yeah,
the
trade
large
paperback
one.
are the big ones. Yeah.
Okay. So it was like a special set that they had that had a bunch of illustrations inside along with it.
Oh, cool.
So sort of illustrations of some of the ideas that he had throughout the book, which the illustrations were a little unsettling, but I liked it.
He revised Dark Tower 1 in 2003. So if you reread it, reread the revised version.
Okay.
The Gunslinger.
The Gunslinger, yeah.
It's like the Gunslinger, the Drawing of the Three, and Wasteland, right?
Wastelands, yeah.
Yes. And those first three books I read, and that's what got me into reading a whole bunch of other stuff. I ended up reading a lot of Stephen King novels and then wondering to myself, first of all, a lot of these characters pop up in his Dark Tower trilogy in one form or another.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what drugs was he on that he went from this to this?
There's a decade. You can look it up. There's like, if it was published in this decade, he was probably on cocaine.
That was definitely a drug-fueled book or set
the
of
first
books.
three, I would argue, yeah, definitely.
I have not gotten to read anything past the first three. So, That's something I'm going to have to sit down to do. As for our
Or listen to
podcast,
it.
yeah.
Or listen to it.
The audiobooks are stellar.
My version of reading is listening to it
Oh, okay.
lately.
Yes.
I
good.
don't have time to crack a book, so I got
Most
that.
people don't. That's
I
why
got
I
that.
hate it when.
Go ahead.
Well, that's why I hate it when people are like, audiobooks are not reading. They are reading. They are reading. They
Mhm.
are reading. So,
That's why I got
human
Audible.
communication
yeah.
over the eons has been audio only.
Yeah. Oral traditions.
Verbal storytellers.
Correct.
That's why I got Audible to begin with, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I was thinking, I really want to get back into reading. I have all these books on my shelves, but I just really don't have the time between working, doing the podcast, this, that, or the other thing. And I was like, okay, so I got the subscription, and now I'm knocking off 3 to 6 books in a month.
Nice.
There you go.
So that's better than the 1 or 2 that I might get through in a year trying to read at my current pace in life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I read with my ears.
There you go.
So, as for our podcasts, you can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, just because I am feeling a little lazy and don't want to list anything right now. We are
It's like a
also...
Links
scavenger
in the
hunt.
show notes.
Right. There's links everywhere. Links in the show notes. I just put my little link tree thing up there. It's on. We have it up on Instagram. It's on YouTube. We're all over the place. And now we actually have a couple of videos up on YouTube. So that works if you want to sit down and look at my mug for 2 hours.
And ours too.
Right. I'm not saying anything about anybody else, but I know that I look a little shaggy and tired right now, and probably
No,
in
you
need
got a
of
blazer on. Pulls the look together.
Yeah, I literally just wandered by this tweed thing with the freaking
Oh, it's the elbow.
Nice.
No, there you
It's
go,
got-
man.
It makes it.
That's it.
and I wandered by it while I was
fire.
literally fire. Yeah, I wandered by this in a thrift store, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy that and wear that on most things that I record, just for the hell of it, because
There you
it
go.
goes
That's
with
your
literally
podcast
any
uniform.
shirt.
Yep.
And my
Yep.
son immediately said, "That's it. I'm gonna buy you this white checkered shirt, and I'm getting you a bow tie."
Bow ties are cool.
And I'm like, I don't know that I can pull off the bow tie look, but maybe if I wear the glasses and the jacket at the same time, I could pull off the random bow tie, but I don't think I'll ever do that.
Just put a bow tie on, no collar, just on top of the t-shirt.
Right? Just a random kind of
Yeah.
just a bow tie, but not tied. Just kind of sitting
Drape it
there.
around your neck. Yep.
So on behalf of myself and the folks over here at the Strange and Beautiful Book Club, I did the cub thing again. Shit. Yeah, I'm
It's
tired.
okay.
You can tell. It's late. I'm exhausted. I got to work in the morning. On behalf of myself and the Strange and Beautiful Book Club podcast, I don't want to say it. I'm going to say it. Drink some water, you thirsty bitches.
Until next time.
Bye.
That's so much better.